Did you know Spain is the country with the strangest borders? On the map, it looks like Spain has only two land neighbors, France and Portugal, but in reality, there are many more. Just the border with France creates a few unusual oddities. For example, the town of Livia, which lies entirely within French territory, only 2 kilometers from the border, but it is Spanish territory. This phenomenon is called an enclave, and moving further west, you'll find an even more surprising case, Pheasant Island. Long ago, Spain and France couldn't agree on how to divide the island because the border ran right through the middle, so they decided to take turns owning it. For the first half of the year, the island belongs to Spain, and for the second half, the border shifts and it becomes French territory. There is also another neighbor hidden between Spain and France, Andorra. It's one of the smallest countries in the world, with a population of about 80,000 and almost half the size of New York City. But Spain has another hidden neighbor, and it's much larger, the United Kingdom. Even though Britain lies far to the north, it holds an overseas territory at the very southern tip of the Iberian Peninsula, Gibraltar, which for centuries has been a point of dispute between Spain and the UK, as it controls access to the Mediterranean through the Strait of Gibraltar. The strait itself divides 2 continents, Europe and Africa. But despite this, Spain is the only European country that shares a land border with Africa, thanks to 3 Spanish enclaves bordering Morocco, another unexpected neighbor. 2 of them are the cities of Ceuta and Melilla, and the third is a tiny strip of land that was once an island, but over time became connected to the mainland by a narrow isthmus, creating the shortest land border in the world, just 85 meters long. Why do 80% of all Americans live east of this line, while only 20% occupy the western part of the United States? Even more, the majority in the West live in California, Oregon, and Washington within this line, accounting for 11% of all those living in the West. Thus, only 9% of Americans live in half of the mainland of the US, which is equivalent to the population of New York City alone. Why is that? The main reason for this is geography, especially the Rocky Mountains that stretch across the entire country and act as a natural barrier to the rains coming from the Pacific Ocean. They are so high that they prevent the clouds from passing into the center of the country, and this effect is called rain shadow. At the same time, precipitation from the east can easily penetrate into the depths of the country, but due to winds from the Gulf of Mexico, cannot cross this line as it changes its direction. Because of the lack of precipitation, it creates an area of dry land that is not suitable for agricultural production, and this is reflected in the population density. Not all Americans know that the US and Russia are actually much closer to each other, just 2 miles apart, and more than that, they are even connected. Sometimes, and here is why. The countries are separated by the Bering Strait, and if we look closer here, we can see 2 tiny Diomede Islands which are 2.4 miles apart, and divide the mainland of the US and the mainland of Russia. Little Diomede belongs to the USA, and it is home to one of the most isolated towns in the USA called Diomede, with a population of 82 people. Big Diomede belongs to Russia, and it is uninhabited. Only military personnel are present. Therefore, Diomede is the closest American town to Russia, separated by 2 miles of water. And the point is that in the winter, the water freezes and creates an ice bridge between the 2 countries, and thus making it possible to cross the border by land. Interesting that there is an international date line between these 2 islands. The difference between them is 21 hours, and if you cross the border from the US side, you will be in the future and become a kind of time traveler. Why do all the airplanes in the world avoid flying over this zone? This zone is quite huge, more than 5 times the size of France, and if we look at a flight radar, we can see an extensive area empty of airplanes. This is the Tibetan Plateau. There are 3 main reasons why planes do not fly here. Firstly, Tibet is the highest plateau in the world, with an average elevation of about 14,800 feet. It is home to some of the highest mountains on the planet, including Mount Everest. Commercial aircraft fly at an altitude of about 33,000 feet, but in case of an emergency, such as a cabin depressurization, they need to quickly descend to 10,000 feet, which is almost impossible in Tibet because of its height. Secondly, the weather conditions in Tibet are often extremely unpredictable. Strong winds, turbulence, and sudden weather changes make flying over this region dangerous and challenging. Finally, the third reason is the lack of sufficient airports for emergency landings in the area. There are only 5 airports in Tibet, making flights over this region extremely risky. You probably know that the Earth is divided into 24 time zones, but why do they look so weird? You see, time starts at the prime meridian, Greenwich, or 0 UTC, Coordinated Universal Time. All zones east of Greenwich have positive offsets, while those to the west have negative offsets. So, when you were in Los Angeles, you were in the UTC -8 time zone. But if the time zones remained perfectly straight, there would be a number of inconveniences. For example, in Phoenix, one part of the city would be in UTC -7 and another in -8, creating a 1-hour difference and significant confusion. For this reason, it was decided to change the time zone boundaries based on the borders of countries and regions. The country with the largest number of time zones is France. Thanks to its numerous overseas departments, it covers 12 time zones. At the same time, a giant like China technically covers 5 time zones, but decided to use only one for the whole country. As a result, western cities like Kashgar are still dark at 10 a.m.,